So I'd like to talk through some ideas I have for my next book. Or a few of the books. I just want to talk through some book ideas today, I guess. So this first book I'm writing is Art, Language, and Revelation. Basically, what makes us human. It's looking at when history began, when we became human in the sense that we essentially, our story diverges from the natural world. We have kind of an independent narrative. After that, I've been thinking about doing a book on Spinoza. And I was thinking about doing Spinoza and ecology, and I was thinking Spinoza and causality. But at this point, I think I'm looking at Spinoza and cosmic optimism. So let me unpack that a little bit. So Spinoza and ecology, okay, great, got that. God is immanent in Spinoza's theology, so it's useful. Next, Spinoza and causality. He's got a really interesting idea about causality, because causality for Spinoza is God interacting with God's self. There are not separate subjects and objects per se. Everything is God, therefore God is interacting with itself. And that's how everything happens. So there's this kind of like circular feedback loop, systems theory kind of vibe going on with Spinoza's causality. Like, he doesn't have freedom, but he does have self-determination, right? And so God is also self-determining in the sense that he puts a lot of time arguing that God is a substance, and substances are self-caused, and so therefore God is self-caused, not dependent on something external. So he spends a lot of time making that clear. What's so interesting about that is in his theory of personality for us people, he says there is no such thing as free will, which I agree. Free will implies total disconnection from everything in its pure sense. It means uninfluenced by anything else, completely independent. I don't think anything like that exists inside the universe. Maybe the universe itself is that, who knows? But I think that's also unlikely. So, bottom line is, in Spinoza's theory of personality, he also has the idea of self-determination as freedom. So free will doesn't exist, but freedom does exist as a possibility. And freedom comes from self-determination. And self-determination means not being pushed around by things outside ourselves. It means not being passively manipulated by external events, not having knee-jerk emotional reactions to things that happen in the world. Using our rational capacity, basically that piece of the logos in us, to see the functional, structural, kind of like nature of things that make them themselves and make us ourselves. And so by using rationality, one can understand the causes of things, understand where things come from, and understanding where things come from undermines their power over us. So we realize that I'm having a feeling because something out there has done something and I reacted to it, and that's why I have the feeling. So now I'm aware that it's my feeling and I'm choosing it. So I am now no longer determined by that thing out there. Instead, I am aware of my feeling and I can choose, self-determine how to respond to the feeling. I can't decide whether I'm going to have the feeling. The feeling happens or the feeling doesn't. The perception happens or the perception doesn't. I see something or I don't see something. I can't control whether I see something or experience something. I can control, and I can't also fully control my reactions to it because of, and this is not in Spinoza, but this is my read on it, because of history, trauma, unconscious things in our personalities. We can't control our reactions to things fully. That said, we can decide how we act on our reactions. So I can have an emotional reaction come up. My rationality can tell me that I'm having an emotional reaction to this thing that happened, therefore making me aware of my choice in this. And then I can decide, okay, well, if that's the case, if I know I'm having an emotional reaction and I'm not choosing it, do I want to act on that? Do I want to act mad or sad or happy? or whatever? Or do I want to instead, let that feeling pass because I know that it's not the right thing to do? That's self-determination. That gives us the power to make choices in our lives about what happens. It doesn't mean that we're not related to anything else. It doesn't mean we have free will. It doesn't mean any of those things. What it does mean is we do have the power to be free. We can self-determine just like God self-determines, but on a much smaller and individual and less fundamental scale. So, anyways, so that book, Causality, that's why I wanted to talk about causality in Spinoza, and then and related to like systems theory and ecology. I think that's very interesting because there's all these feedback loops, and I could tie it in with Kant's third critique, where he's talking about organisms and how we don't have linear causality in organisms. We have it doesn't go A to B. A creates B, but B also creates A. Like our organ systems, they can't live separately from our body. So there's like a circular causality to it. I thought that's fascinating, and it's not something that we think of in our culture very much. We don't understand this. And that's causing a lot of problems. That's why we have the ecological crisis. That's why we have all kinds of different issues. We don't understand how systems work. And Spinoza, with his metaphysics and, combined with like things like systems theory, with like you have feedback loops and all these things, gives us a different way of seeing the world. So I think that's very interesting. I might write a book on that. The other topic I was talking about cosmic optimism. Cosmic optimism essentially is the opposite of cosmic pessimism. Makes sense, duh. In the sense that cosmic pessimism is reductive materialism. It basically sees the universe as nothing but atoms in the void, nothing but, like, we're all alone in this universe, small creatures that don't have much significance, and there's no God, and, there's no meaning to anything we're doing. We just kind of got to make it up as we go and fight against the meaninglessness of nature and construct this island bastion of human dignity in a vast, eternal night of meaningless nihilism. Sorry, that's very pessimistic, but that's kind of like where materialism goes. That's cosmic pessimism. So what is cosmic optimism then? Cosmic optimism is kind of like in line with the Brian Swim, Thomas Berry revelatory kind of school of thought, which is basically saying the universe is a creative entity. It is doing something. It is exploring and growing and becoming, and we are a part of that process. We are a part of this cosmic evolution, the whole evolutionary nature of the universe. The universe is having a journey and having an experience, and we're in that experience, and we are the universe that has become self-conscious, like reflecting on ourselves. We are a manifestation of the creativity of the universe. We are the universe being aware of itself, and therefore we have a very important role to play in the story of the universe. We may be small, but we're mighty. We're probably not the only ones that are like this, but we are like this, and therefore that is important. How we use our self-consciousness has significance for the whole universe because it's so rare. It's so rare to have self-conscious beings, and we are self-conscious in this universe, and we can have some unique insights to offer. There may be other self-conscious beings elsewhere, but we're the only ones we know of, and therefore that means what we have to offer is unique and valuable. That's cosmic optimism. Now, I see that as very compatible with Spinoza. This idea, because Spinoza has a God that is immanent, that is omnipresent in all things, not separate and divided from the world. Because of that, Spinoza is saying that we are a part of God. And if God is everything, then God is the universe. And that means we're a part of the universe, which is exactly what the cosmic optimists are saying, the emergentists. Ones who are saying, something new emerges, new levels of complexity emerge that can't be explained by their prerequisites fully. Something new has shown up outside of just the sum of its parts. This is the synergy thing, emergentism. So I think Spinoza's model lends itself to this, just because God is everything. And because the universe, because God is everything, the universe is inherently divine. It's not a meaningless, nihilist, dead materialistic universe. It's God. Everything is God. You're God, I'm God, everything's God. And so that means that everything is at its basis inherently meaningful. And that lends itself to optimism. I can't see how you get a pessimistic worldview out of that. If God is everything and everything is divine, I mean, you could really twist it around and turn that into something negative and pessimistic, like meaninglessness, but it's kind of hard to do. You have to really work at it. And I think it's natural to move towards cosmic optimism coming from the viewpoint that Spinoza creates. God is everything, but God is also more than we see. There's an infinite number of attributes, not just extension and physicality, which we experience. There's an infinite number of other attributes which we can't experience because of our Umwelt, of our limits to perception and reality. And that's not a bad thing. We have to remember, it's not like we have FOMO. We're constantly feared of missing out on things we don't see, but we don't even appreciate what we do see. Like, we don't even appreciate the natural world. We don't appreciate extension and physicality. We take it for granted. And then we just were like, how do I use this to make myself happy? That's what human beings do. But that's silly. That's very short-sighted, I should say. Spinoza says there's infinite attributes that are not perceptible to humans. We're built to perceive this one. This is what we're here for. We're here. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, we're finite beings. We can't perceive everything. We're here to perceive what we're perceiving. Extension is our world, and then we have thought and extension. We have these two dimensions, and so if you take that into the context of the universe, then the universe as we know it is extension, but embedded in this is this need for accounting for thought, for consciousness, which is thought, which is a fundamental attribute for Spinoza that pairs with all other attributes. Every other attribute is also paired with thought. It's like the medium that connects everything. And so, in this way, Spinoza is kind of a panpsychist. Spinoza is saying that everything has thought involved with it. Extension can be separated from thought, sure. It's recognized as its own attribute. But you can't experience extension without thought. How could you know that you were experiencing it if you didn't have thought? You wouldn't. It would just be physical. So, extension without thought is materialism, I guess. And so, but Spinoza is saying we can't know that. We can't know anything without thought. So thought is in everything. And so in some sense that implies both a panentheistic view, God is more than the world, more than we can see, but it also connotates a panpsychist view. All things are combined with consciousness. Consciousness is in all things. All things that we know are combined with consciousness. Maybe there are things that aren't, that are outside of our knowledge, but how would we know? We can't even say they exist or don't exist at that point because we can't perceive them, and so therefore they have no consciousness. It's kind of like idealism. The problem of idealism is always, what about deep time? What about this, billions of years of the universe where, as far as we know, there are no conscious beings. We're the only conscious beings that we know of, and other creatures on the planet to varying degrees. But, that started 3.5 billion years ago. The universe is 14 billion-ish, 13.5, whatever. So we have 10 billion years where there's no consciousness whatsoever that we know of in the universe. So did that even happen? Right? So this is the problem with idealism, is if you can only know something if it's perceived, then what about all the things that are not perceived? Can we not say that they exist? The sun goes down at night, does it disappear? It's like, does it vanish from reality and show up in the morning? I mean, that's crazy. We don't think that. But idealism forces us to answer that question because of the way it frames things. Anyways, so Spinoza is essentially saying, he's saying that everything is God and that consciousness is in everything. So that's kind of like where the starting point of that book I'd like to write on Spinoza is. Spinoza and Cosmic Optimism. I'd get a chance to explore the combination of Spinoza's metaphysics and its implications for a cosmically how do I say this? Optimistic view, cosmically optimistic view. How this gives us the framework for understanding that, and how it's very compatible with our, modern physics that also see things this way. So, anyways, these are the book ideas that are rattling around in my head right now. I'm going to cut it off because I'm almost to work, so I'm almost there. But I do want to throw out one more thing I'm thinking about, which keeps coming back, is I think eventually I'll write a big history book, a book on big history, meaning Big Bang to present history. And I think I'm just probably going to write a bunch of books on the different segments of that in the meantime, and eventually I'll just take all that studying I've done and put it together into one big narrative, and then, you know, maybe that's a powerful thing. Maybe I can write it in a way that no one else does. Maybe I can write it in a compelling way that really moves and engages with people. So, you know, we'll see. That's another book I'd like to write eventually, but I'm not sure when. That one seems like it's going to take a lot more time. So, anyways, that's it for today. Talk soon.